Adelaire, 6th of April 2024, Bangladesh, India's rear door knocked when China knocked. China is strategically using Bangladesh as a pawn in its all-out conflict against India to influence the Indian subcontinent. Following the recent elections in Bangladesh, Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, who has led the Awami League since 1996 except for the 2001 to 2008 interim, was re-elected to a fourth term. Significant major powers hastened to her aid in their congratulations, avoiding or timidly alluding to the suspicions of irregularities that the opposition, which boycotted the elections, had voiced. Particularly notable were India and China, two superpowers engaged in an intense competition to woo Bangladesh via security alliances, infrastructure projects, and direct aid. Therefore, Bangladesh is significant for both China and India in terms of regional and Southeast Asian influence, given that Myanmar presents a potential instability risk to Bangladesh. Bangladesh maintains outstanding relations with other actors, including Japan, Russia, and the United States, which regards the Bay of Bengal nation as a critical partner in its Indo-Pacific strategy based on its traditional non-alignment foreign policy. Prime Minister Hasina, who is seeking legitimacy. Sheikh Hasina, the incumbent Prime Minister of Bangladesh, emerged victorious in the January elections, securing her fourth consecutive term in office at the age of 76. It was not an easy journey, as numerous voices from within and outside the country condemned election fraud and labeled Hasina an authoritarian leader. Following the conclusion of these events, the Prime Minister of Bangladesh is advocating for an international policy that bolsters her legitimacy, which remains the subject of an intense domestic dispute. Clashes between activists of the opposition Bangladesh Nationalist Party, BNP, and members of the government's Awami League, AL, have escalated since late 2023, with the police struggling to contain the violence. Furthermore, the number of arrests involving thousands of individuals associated with the BNP has increased, with some being detained on allegations that date back years. In response, the BNP called for a boycott of the upcoming elections. In contrast, the AL actively promoted defections from the BNP starting in December, offering positions and candidacies to its principal adversaries, with Shahjahan Omar, a former BNP vice president who subsequently ran for the Jalokati constituency as an AL candidate, providing the most transparent illustration. The 7th of January concluded without significant occurrences, however, the voter turnout amounted to 42%. The Election Commission revalidated Hasina's fourth term in office by determining that the AL retained 75% of the seats at issue and was, therefore, the clear winner by an absolute majority. The European Union, India, and the United Kingdom congratulated her promptly, albeit a little later, than the United States and the United Kingdom. It was also noted that the electoral processes in the United States and the United Kingdom were not free and fair. Hasina's prompt international travel, highlighted by her attendance at the Munich Security Conference from February 16 to the 18th, has restored stability to her position as Prime Minister. Bangladesh is among the nations most impacted by climate change, so her address focused on fighting it. She also defended Ukraine's stance in the ongoing conflict with Russia, possibly indicating complicity with Western positions atypical of Bangladesh's customary non-alignment. A bilateral encounter took place between Hasina and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Despite this, Russia extended its congratulations to the Prime Minister on her triumph in the election. China and India, where Hasina last visited in 2019, have expressed interest in organizing an official visit. The Chinese invitation was extended after the Bangladeshi Transport Minister, Abdul Qadir, expressed his appreciation to India for its assistance during the election process during the opposition BNP's boycott. Hasina and Indian Prime Minister Modi held their final meeting in September 2023 in New Delhi, within the context of the G20 summit. During this gathering, the primary subjects of discussion were regional security and bilateral cooperation. Historically connected, Bangladesh, an enormous nation eclipsed only by the magnitude of its neighboring country, was a part of India until 1947, during which time Hindu and Muslim cultures and religions merged. 84% of the population is still Muslim. Boasting a pivotal role as an intermediary between India and Southeast Asia, this region has been significantly impacted by the centuries-old influence of neighboring Myanmar and distant China. Bangladesh, situated on the Bay of Bengal, is being courted by the two Asian superpowers, China and India, with infrastructure building and connectivity initiatives. Bangladesh is attempting to establish its foothold in the politically delicate Indo-Pacific region. Bangladesh and its strategy in the Indo-Pacific. The nation also published its Indo-Pacific Strategy, Outlook, in April 2023. This document delineates its vision for the future of the Indo-Pacific through Vision 2041, a national strategic plan aimed at industrializing the country and emphasizing the significance of Bangladesh's coastal state status on the Bay of Bengal in attaining this objective. The Outlook argues that achieving its Vision 2041 is contingent upon stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. This is in light of the region's significance for global commerce, the promotion of an open and free Indo-Pacific, the amplification of climate action, and the technology-driven nature of the initiatives. This authentic approach is founded upon the foundational tenets of conventional Bangladeshi politics. Initially, the foreign policy tenet advocated by Hasina's father, the revered father of the nation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, was non-alignment, which he summed up in the following phrase: friendship toward all, malice toward none. The Outlook subsequently references principles such as non-interference in internal affairs, peaceful resolution of disputes between states, and adherence to international law, specifically the 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, and the United Nations Charter concerning maritime routes. Priority is also given in the Outlook to Bangladesh attaining economic prosperity via the interconnection of products, services, and people. The Outlook differs from other documents that delineate the strategies of Indo-Pacific nations such as Japan, South Korea, or Australia in that it does not discuss particular third countries. Instead, it underscores the imperative of security within the framework of a non-alignment policy, which closely resembles the approach taken by India in its various initiatives and other nations in the region, including the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. Therefore, Bangladesh's adherence to the fundamental principle of non-interference in internal affairs signifies not only its rejection of any attempt to exert undue influence over its domestic politics but also its refusal to engage in the internal affairs of other nations. Security, as defined in the Bangladeshi Outlook, encompasses the collective welfare of humanity and the world at large. Even though this Bangladeshi approach to Indo-Pacific security is founded on non-proliferation and peacekeeping, the country is confronted with an even harsher reality. Judicial extremism was a significant issue not too long ago, and the conflict in neighboring Myanmar has escalated to the point of concern at present. Boundary guards from Burma unlawfully traverse the boundary in an attempt to evade combat with opposition forces to the military junta. Heavy fighting between the Tatmadaw, the Myanmar Armed Forces, and the insurgent Arakan Army, whose members also cross the border from Burma's bordering provinces amid the conflict, is also threatening the security of southeastern Bangladesh. Property damage and loss of life among Bangladeshi citizens are among the casualties that will result from this conflict. An estimated 3,000 or more Bangladeshis have attempted to escape to the interior of the country by crossing the frontier. Myanmar was already beset by complications as the result of the massive expulsions of ethnic Rohingya into Bangladeshi territory, where over 1.3 million displaced people are currently crammed into enormous refugee centers. India's forecast. The presence of India in Bangladesh is conspicuous, as it shares the fifth longest border in the globe, spanning over 4,000 kilometers. The capital city, Dhaka, which was formerly the administrative center of East Bengal, possesses urban features and structures that are distinctly Indian despite the predominantly Muslim and secular population of Bangladesh. The assistance provided by India during the 1971 independence insurrection in what was formerly East Pakistan proved to be a critical factor in its subsequent victorious war of liberation against Pakistan. This would lead to the formation of modern-day Bangladesh, whose name evokes its former membership in India and from which it derives its contemporary identity, Bangladesh, which translates to country in Bengal. Despite border disputes dating back to the 1970s, India consented to an international arbitration award in 2014 under the leadership of Narendra Modi, which delineated Bangladesh's maritime and territorial boundaries. India demonstrated its commitment to fostering amicable relations with its eastern neighbor while adhering to international standards. It parallels China's South Sea policy and disputes with its immediate neighbors. The Modi government's 2014 Act East policy was predicated on India's projection into Southeast Asia through Bangladesh, which is the only feasible route for India due to geography. Bangladesh is frequently referred to as blockaded India, which is an essential aspect of the relationship between Bangladesh and India. One of Modi's first international visits was to Bangladesh in 2015. Hasina followed up on the visit the following year. India's interest in Bangladesh extends beyond merely serving as a conduit for communication. In contrast to the recent past, this shared interest possesses a long-term perspective that merits attention and interest. Bangladesh is no longer a trivial matter for India. This is a more comprehensive reflection of India's new policy, as articulated by its present Foreign Minister, Subramaniam Jaishankar, which signifies the country's transition from subsistence economic thinking to a more ambitious and long-term strategic approach amid China's rise in the region and broader geopolitical unrest. India is advancing its navigation-first strategy, which identifies Bangladesh as the most favorable nation for India to establish robust political and commercial ties. Bangladesh is proactive towards Indian initiatives, including the Bangladesh-Bhutan-India-Nepal Initiative, BBIN, and the Bay of Bengal Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation, BIMSTEC. However, ongoing territorial disputes persist between the two nations regarding the utilization of waterways that originate in or traverse Indian territory before entering Bangladesh. Both nations are currently engaged in discussions regarding an economic partnership agreement. An existing agreement permits Bangladesh to utilize the rupee to enhance its trade with India, surpassing its foreign exchange reserves, which plummeted to its lowest point since March 2023. This bilateral partnership is predicated on connectivity, as evidenced by railway line initiatives, including the Maitri Express Kolkata-Dhaka, which links the Bangladeshi ports of Chittagong and Mongla to Kolkata. In the interim, India grants Bangladesh unrestricted passage via its territory to conduct business with Bhutan and Nepal. Bangladesh and India have maintained a long-standing partnership in the defense sector, explicitly concerning initiatives to update Bangladeshi equipment. An annual Indo-Bangladeshi defense dialogue has been conducted since 2018. During this dialogue, contracts are ratified, existing commitments are renewed, and joint military exercises are planned with increasing scale and sophistication. As an integral component of the 11th Sampriti joint exercises, numerous ground, artillery, engineering, and other military units from both nations took part in October 2023. In recent years, India has faced competition from a rival for the initiatives and projects of Bangladesh, possibly attributable to its protracted completion of its own. China is additionally intrigued by the construction of connectivity infrastructure, exemplified by the Padma River Bridge, which has emerged as a cornerstone of economic expansion in Bangladesh. China was engaged in constructing scores of bridges and energy projects by October 2023, with over 600 Chinese companies investing in the nation. In addition to the formidable China-Pakistan alliance that imperils its northwestern borders and egress to the Arabian Sea, India faces the risk that a potential China-Bangladesh alliance could encircle the country from the southeast. China and its undertakings. Bangladesh is a highly desirable location for the Belt and Road Initiative, providing China access to South Asia and its maritime routes, specifically from the Bay of Bengal. In pursuit of this objective, China is making substantial investments and advancements in infrastructure and transport across the nation. Consequently, China has become Bangladesh's most significant trading partner since 2006, surpassing India. Furthermore, Bangladesh is transforming into a cost-effective manufacturing hub for the Chinese domestic market. In recent years, China has consistently shown an interest in cultivating a friendly relationship with Bangladesh, occasionally to the detriment of India. This was evident during the critical provision of vaccines to Bangladesh during the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, a period when the prevalence of the disease in the country was rising due to delayed deliveries of those purchased from India. The expeditious felicitations the Xi Jinping administration extended to Hasina following her election triumph in January, which entailed an invitation for the Prime Minister to convene with the Chinese President in Beijing, serve as an additional illustration. Bangladesh has emerged as a net purchaser of armaments from China in the defense sector since 2018, surpassing its conventional suppliers, India and the United States. Indeed, Bangladesh is presently the second largest export market for China, a nation that imported 1.6% of the arms traded internationally between 2013 and 2017 and from 2018 to 2022, with 74% of these imports originating from China. Beyond this provision, the bilateral security relationship extends further. In 2002, an agreement was reached to foster cooperation, and specific infrastructure projects and investments involving Chinese capital also impacted the military domain. In 2023, an all-Chinese submarine base for the Bangladesh Navy was inaugurated in Pqua, a coastal city in the province of Cox's Bazar. Minister Sheikh Hasina, the largest submarine port in South Asia, was named quite symbolically in reference to the current state of relations between China and Bangladesh. Not only does India's enormous neighbor China regard this relationship with apprehension, but so do the United States and its allies. An apparent reference to Quad was made by the then Chinese Defense Minister Wei Feng in April 2021, during a visit to the country, when he called for increased military cooperation from Asian nations, including Bangladesh, against the powers forming alliances in the region. China also backed Bangladesh in December of that year when the United States parted from the Democracy Summit as a warning to Hasina regarding the country's human rights record. President Xi Jinping subsequently reaffirmed China's public support for her government and urged it to resist pressure from the United States. Does this imply Bangladesh is a formidable regional ally of China? Conversely, Hasina has recently advocated for cooperation rather than strong alliances, as she is wary of potential debts with Beijing and emphasizes that Bangladesh is improbable to fall into a debt trap similar to those that have befallen neighboring Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Hasina has consistently reaffirmed Bangladeshi sovereignty while acknowledging and accepting Chinese investments, thereby demonstrating remarkable diplomatic acumen. Additional actors aiming to collaborate. Participants extend beyond China and India in the global competition for collaboration with Bangladesh. The West closely monitors Bangladesh's stance regarding the Indo-Pacific. As a result, in 2023, the International Monetary Fund granted Bangladesh $4.7 billion in financial assistance to alleviate the vulnerabilities linked to climate change. On the other hand, Bangladesh is a vital partner of the United States in several multilateral and bilateral forums, including the U.S.-Bangladesh Partnership Dialogue, the U.S.-Bangladesh Security Dialogue, and the ASEAN Regional Forum. Bangladesh also provides the Bangladeshi Armed Forces with substantial quantities of military aid annually, including equipment and training. Recently, Hasina's administration has appeared to be more aligned with U.S. foreign policy in response to statements from Washington expressing concern over the human rights situation and the Chinese presence. Bangladesh, which abstained in the March 2022 United Nations vote condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine, changed its mind the following year. In April 2023, Bangladesh and Japan, another Indo-Pacific partner for Bangladesh, issued a joint statement denouncing Russia's violation of international law. This does not imply a lack of connection with Russia, as Hasina recognizes the support provided by the Soviet Union during the 1971 Bangladesh Independence War on behalf of the Awami League, which her father, Sheikh Mujibur, is credited with founding. His dictum that friendship with all, malice with none should prevail over Bangladesh's non-alignment foreign policy continues to serve as the foundation for the former's policy, which explains why the Russian-Bangladeshi relationship has been maintained, if not strengthened, during Hasina's administration. Japan is an additional nation with considerable interest in Bangladesh and is a prominent investor in establishing industrial zones and connectivity infrastructure. During Hasina's April 2023 visit to Tokyo, the two nations also established a security partnership encompassing technology transfer. Following this, Australia promptly established a defence office at its embassy in Dhaka to bolster defence collaboration between the two nations. The significance of Japan to Bangladesh in terms of economy and security is exemplified through the development of the substantial deepwater port of Mount Harberi. Initially designated for China, this undertaking was re-evaluated and transferred to Japan subsequent to after the United States and India raised objections.